How scientists think and analyze information. Scientists tend to think differently than other professions. And one example of scientific thinking is the term model. Now, typically, when I say the word model, people tend to think about that person who's strutting their stuff down the runway. They're showing off the latest and greatest in fashion. But to a scientist, that's not the case. A model is actually something that represents an object, a system, or a process. And we have some really good examples of models here that I'm going to show you. The first of which is right here. This picture of the Earth is a very good example of a model of Earth. Here we can see North America, and then we go down and we see South America in this particular picture. And it's showing us the Earth that we can't see with the naked eye unless we're members of the International Space Station, which, well, let's face it, most of us aren't. But it makes a very good model of Earth that we can use to help analyze and measure distances between objects. So, from this model, say if you wanted to measure the distance between Florida and parts of Puerto Rico, you could do that. We can look at cloud cover on this particular day. So, actually, images, satellite images like this one, make very good models that we can draw conclusions from. Another good example of a model is something like this. This is a model of the atom. Now we can see in the center we have the nucleus of the atom, and it's showing us the protons and the neutrons, and then outside of that nucleus we have the electrons that are orbiting the nucleus in their little ring-like paths. Again, this is a model that helps us to determine how an atom may look even though we can't see it with our naked eye. Another good example of a model is going to be something like this, the train. Now, many of you are young and you may actually want to build a train set like this, and that would be like way cool. Um, but these model train sets are called model train sets for a reason. Most of them are built to what we call scale. And that means, for example, if this particular little train or train car was built to 1 to 64 scale, that means 1 inch on this train is the equivalent of 64 inches on the actual train car that it's based off of. And you can see there's a lot of detailing in many of these train railway model cars. So again, a model is going to be something that helps us to represent an object, a system, or a process. Another example of scientific thinking is the term cost. And no, I'm not referring to the monetary value of something. That's where everybody goes as soon as they hear the word cost. They think about money. Well, to a scientist, cost is something totally different. Cost is the outcome of a decision or process, and it's usually considered negative or undesirable. So let me show you an example here. All right, vroom vroom. Here come your mom or dad or your parent or your grandparent in their new hot sports car, and you're thinking, "Wow, cool! We just got a new sports car." Okay, and first thing that might hit your head was, "Well, gee, what's it going to cost to drive it?" Well, you're thinking monetary. How much is the gas going to cost? A scientist, on the other hand, is not going to think about the money aspect of it. They're going to think about what's the outcome of driving this car. So we fire up the car, and the exhaust gases put out produce carbon dioxide. Now, carbon dioxide is what we call a greenhouse gas. It actually helps to contribute to global climate change. So, to a scientist, we look at it this way. We start the car. The car puts off carbon dioxide. That carbon dioxide goes into our atmosphere. And we want to know just how much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere it takes or comes from each vehicle and how much it's affecting our overall temperatures globally. So when we talk about cost, that's what we're referring to. It's not necessarily how much it costs money wise to run the vehicle, it's what's going to happen by running that vehicle. Now, scientists also tend to explore the world and conduct scientific investigations using a variety of tools and techniques. And the first one we're going to talk about here is observation. Observation is gathering information by using your senses. So we're talking about sight, sound, feel, how something feels when you touch it. Now, there's two types of observations. There's a qualitative observation, which deals with descriptions of an object or a process. And then there's quantitative observation that deals with numbers or amounts. Now, how are you going to keep these two terms straight? Well, I'm going to show you. Qualitative is based off of the root word quality, Qualit. Those are the same first six letters in the word quality. And when we talk about the quality of something, we're describing it. Quantitative is based off of the root word for quantity. And when we talk about the quantity of something, we're talking about how much or the amount of something that there is. So quantitative deals with amounts, qualitative deals with descriptions. And we have to be very, very careful when making observations. Observations should be based on objective reasoning. This is evidence, this is fact. Observations should never be based on subjective reasoning, which is really just your personal feelings about something. So let's come over here and take a look at this picture of these two Navy vessels. We want to make some observations about this picture. So first, let's talk about qualitative observations. Well, some good qualitative observations would be the boat is gray, the boat has red on the bottom, the water is a bluish gray color, the sky is blue. We can make a whole bunch of qualitative observations in regards to this particular photo. Now, we can also make a bunch of quantitative observations. For example, there are, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4 mooring lines holding the first boat in place. And we can see that there are birds on the mooring lines. And making that statement, there are birds on the mooring lines, well, that's qualitative. But if we sat here and counted every single one of the birds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, well, we could say there are 10 birds on this first mooring line. That would be a quantitative observation. Another good quantitative observation, there are two ships in the picture. Each ship has one tower. Each ship has two radio antennae attached to it. Each ship has two portholes visible, although the first ship has 1, 2, 3 portholes visible. Okay, so quantitative, we're talking about counting things. Again, quantitative deals with numbers or amounts. Qualitative is based on the description of an object. So there are other tools and techniques that scientists use when we're conducting scientific investigations. And the first of those is going to be collecting data. Data is those facts, numbers, figures, and other information that we collect when we do a scientific investigation. Then we go about organizing that data, and that's usually done by classifying the data. Now, a good example of data classification is shown over here on the right in this chart. We can see we've conducted an experiment on plant growth in different pHs of soil and then measured the average plant growth. In group 1, we had a soil pH of 6.0, and we can see the average plant growth is 25.4. For plant group 2, we can see the pH of the soil is 6.2, and we have an average plant growth of 33. For plant group 3, we see we have a pH of 6.4, and the average plant growth is 50.8. Plant group 4, the pH of the soil was 6.6, and wow, look at that, our average plant growth is now up to 53.3. Plant group 5 has an average soil pH of 6.8, which means the average plant growth showed up again at 53.3. Now let's take a look at plant group 6. Soil pH is 7, and all of a sudden, bam, our average plant growth drops down to 30.5. That is a big drop. In plant group 7, the average pH is 7.2, and then we see the average plant growth really tanks at 22.9. So what can we do with this particular data set? Well, we can make what we call inferences. So inferring is interpreting observations that are based on reasoning. Okay, so I can infer from this data that the best pH to grow our plants in is going to be a pH of 6.6 to 6.8. That will give me the best plant growth for this particular type of plant. We can also predict things. Predicting is an idea or a statement that explains what will happen in the future based on experience or evidence from the past. So I can tell by running this experiment that if I want to grow these plants outside and have them be beautiful, beautiful, healthy plants, then my best bet is to plant them in a slightly acidic soil with a pH of 6.6 to 6.8. Another tool that we could use as scientists is making models. And again, a model is going to visually represent something. So we explore the world by collecting data. We take that data, we organize it. Sometimes when we need to, we make models. We can make inferences based off of that data. And then we predict what's going to happen in the future based off of our findings. So what's the point? Buckley et al. Tells us science is characterized by an ordered approach to learning about the world. That ordered approach includes collecting data. Then we analyze that data. We can make inferences based on that data, and then make conclusions based on objective reasoning. Again, that's very important that we use objective reasoning. We don't want our personal feelings getting in the way of our scientific research. So here's what you can do next, continuing practice work. What you need to do is go to the link below and download the crossword puzzle, complete it using the terms discussed in this video, and then download the observation and inferences worksheet and complete that as well. I really hope you enjoyed watching this. Resources include Interactive Science by Pearson 2012 by Don Buckley et al. All images are either from Microsoft Clipart or personally taken photographs. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you learned something today.